everyone, it's Katie. So today I'm here with my February wrap-up. I'm actually surprised I got reading done. I felt like the first half of the month just went by so quickly and I didn't read like anything, but then the last 2 weeks I really started to read some more. I finished some audiobooks and I finished some books that I had been reading, so I'm really excited that I actually got some reading done because I feel like February just sped on by and I didn't even know what happened. But yeah, today I'm going to share with you some of the books that I read this month. So the first book I finished this month was actually Hunted by PC Cass and Kirsten Cass. This is the 5th House of Night book. I read, I've been reading through this series this year and last year a little bit. I want to finish the series. There's like 20 billion books in this series, but I read it when I was a teenager and I want to finish the series because I never finished it when I was younger. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I still enjoy it, but as with the other ones, it does have a little bit more of a younger feel. It is a young adult book, obviously, but it is very, it's younger and it is really kind of stuck in 2008, like when it came out. Yeah, if you haven't read the series, pick it up, but don't go into it expecting it to be like the best thing in the world, because it's not. But I mean, it's just nostalgic and I enjoy it just for the nostalgia purposes. And vampires, hello. The next book I read this month, I saw someone posting on Twitter about thriller recommendations, and so many people have recommended this book and I was like, oh, I gotta pick it up. And that is the Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. So I read this book, I was in a thriller mood and it sounded interesting to me. I ended up giving it 5 stars because even though I kind of predicted what was going to happen, it was still a crazy book, and like even if like you didn't kind of pick up on the stuff like that, it was still kind of, it was just crazy. Like it was strange. And like I think they purposely tell you kind of the, like you find out the plot twist pretty early on, if you're paying attention. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I'm like oblivious to these things, but there's flashbacks and stuff, so you kind of really pick up on what's going on like pretty early on in the book. But I guess it's more a thriller in the sense that like the characters don't know what's going on. Well, the main character doesn't know what's going on until the end, so it's kind of that unreliable narrator, not really kind of thing. But it was such a good book. It's about this girl whose mother dies, and she has to go live with her grandparents. Now, if you're gonna read this book, it does have some sensitive topics in it, so if you're sensitive to things like suicide or rape, I wouldn't read this book. But it's still a good book nonetheless. Just go into it with, if you're sensitive to that kind of material, I would go into it with caution. But it is a really good book. So it follows this girl whose mom died suddenly, so she goes to live with her grandparents in Kansas on their farm, and her younger cousin is living there because she also lost her mom. Her mom just kind of ran away and just doesn't talk to her anymore, and her cousin ends up telling her about their family history and how like all the Roanoke girls mysteriously vanished or died. So it kind of just follows that twist, and they're trying to, basically she's trying to uncover like why everyone in her family keeps dying. So yeah, it's super interesting. Definitely has a lot of twists. And even though you kind of know what's going on and like it hints at it a lot and foreshadows it a lot and it just blatantly tells you in the flashbacks, there is a bit of more of a twist at the end that kind of got me. But yeah, it was a really good book. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a thriller. Just be cautious going into it if you're sensitive to some of the topics that it discusses. The next book that I actually finished reading this month was Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. Oh my gosh, I've been reading this book since July of 2019 and I just finished it February of 2020. This was one of the first physical books I finished in a while. I've been reading a ton of audiobooks, and this was like the first physical book I finished in such a long time, but it was so good and I miss reading physical books. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It was enjoyable, it was light, but it wasn't, you know, 5-star worthy, and I'm pretty generous with my 5 stars if I do say so myself. This book is basically about a girl named Anna who goes off, well, her parents send her off to Paris, and it's just kind of about her trip abroad and falling in love and that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed this book because Anna is obsessed with films, and I myself like films, so I could kind of appreciate that when she like talks about that kind of stuff. I found that very interesting for her character, and I like that, you know, all the characters are kind of like quirky and stuff, and they all have like big personalities, and you really get to know the people in this book, which is very interesting. The only thing I didn't like, I mean, I just didn't like all the Anna jumping around from guy to guy kind of emotions, but I guess that kind of made it more realistic because that's probably how you are at that age. She's like 17, I think, or like 16, 17. So it's realistic, but overall it was enjoyable. I really enjoyed the romance in this book, and it was just light and cute and fun. And the last book that I read this month was An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks. This book was absolutely insane. It was another thriller, and this book I ended up giving 5 stars. It was amazing. It's about this girl who, I already forgot her name, and I just finished this book like 2 days ago. It's about this girl named Jessica. She is like 20-something, living in New York. She's kind of struggling. She's a makeup artist, and her family basically they're paying a lot of medical bills for her younger sister, and her dad just lost his job, and they're kind of just like struggling in that way financially and stuff. So she ends up overhearing this conversation on one of her clients about this morality survey that's going on, and it's going to pay you $500. So Jessica goes into this survey thinking it'll be a quick way to earn money, super easy, but it ends up diving a little too far into her psyche, and she ends up getting twisted up with this doctor and this like whole scheme that's a lot darker than it originally came off to be, and she ends up getting tangled in this doctor and her husband's marriage, and this whole thing just explodes. But it's a very, very good book, and I thought one thing was going to happen and then something else happened, and it was really good. I highly recommend this book if you guys are into thrillers. This is an adult thriller, so keep that in mind when you go into it. I don't think it had anything too problematic. Oh, this book does deal with assault and suicide and death, so keep that in mind if those are topics that upset you. But it is very mild, at least I think so, so I wouldn't, it's mentioned, but they don't really go in depth as much about that stuff really, but I would say, well, they go more in depth about the suicide stuff, so I would kind of, if you know that upsets you, move along. But so I read a total of 4 books this month, which isn't too bad. I am still on track to completing my Goodreads goal of 100 books. I've read 10 books so far this year, which is pretty cool, although it says I'm 6 books behind schedule, but we'll see. But yeah, I read some good books this month, and I'm happy that I finished some books that I had been working on for a while. But yeah, that is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!